God, I have seasoned analysts also here in the studio with me in Benin to dissect this with me, starting from my extreme left or my far left, where I have Malam Nuruddin Asunoge. Bakadi Salam, Malam.
Thank you for having me. Barka Salah.
All right.
Good morning, Nigerians.
And next to Malam Nuruddin Asunoge is Reverend Rotimi Egage, who is also a barrister and senior pastor of God's Chapel of Refuge, Wisdom Palace. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct. God bless you.
You're welcome,
Thank
sir.
you.
And next to Reverend Rotimi Egage is another erudite legal practitioner, Emmanuel Obakolo. Good to have you join.
It's a delight being here. Good morning, Nigerians.
Well, I don't know what your thoughts are. I want to start with you, Malam Nuruddin. Nigeria is our country, and we've been battling with the issues of cost of governance, issues of corruption in governance, and there are certain targets that this bill is meant to tackle, like the costs of running elections, which will go a long way, bring it to its barest, and also looking at an act of corruption that may also be nipped to some extent. I don't know your thoughts, but how do you grade this development of the bill before the House of Representatives and Senate?
Well, if you talk about bill, you talk about the issue of corruption, you talk about the issue of cost. For me, all of these will be act of distraction, dissipation of time and resources. I would dare to say that, because you are not dealing with the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is the man. Corruption only would fructify in a mind, in a person who had elected to swim in putridity. Until and unless there is an extrication of that mind from that mold, whatever you do amounts to profligacy. And so whether you ask me to stay in office for 1 day, whether to stay for 10 days, it will not stop a mind that is geared towards the peculation of collective patrimony from doing so. So if you have a people who are committed to values, who are committed, who are interested, and they consequently have passion for the country, they will be thinking of what do we put and not what are we going to take. So when people seek office for the sake of power, with the intendment to dominate, do not forget that you do not dominate human beings until you first have reduced them into objects. Only what you take as objects you want to own and dominate. And so that's the mentality of those who exercise authority. Walk into any office today, the portrait of the governor you see, the portrait of the president you see, is one who looks down on the people. That's the posture they take. Look down on the people as those that have been conquered. And therefore what they do consistently is to say, this is a constituency that we have, we consolidate this constituency while we go on a demographic expansion. And so we are the object they want to conquer. And so they will continue to do so until and unless there is a mental and well as attitudinal transition on the part of those whose souls have been crushed, talking about us, the masses now. Because they will continue to do what they are doing for as long as the people remain pliable. So if you find the intrepidity to begin to ask questions, to raise issues, the length of time the man stays in the office or not is not going to operate to defeat a mind that is corrupt, a mind that is rotten.
Thank you for your beautiful outlay. But well, let's get your thoughts, Reverend Rotimi Egage, because he just spoke about that. And I want to see, even though we may not know the minds or thoughts of those who are coming into office, but shouldn't there be a systemic way of checking anything that has to do with, those who have ulterior motives? Wouldn't this cure it?
In the first instance, when you see and hear about these bills, what's come to your mind? Is this our problem now? That is a question many will ask. Although
So you also see it as a distraction?
of course, yes. Although it's part of our problems.
Oh.
Because our problem, there are many. But one of them also include this. If the foundation of anything is faulty, no matter what you build on it, if we don't lay good foundation, solve this problem, which my learned friend spoke about, we're still going to have problem, whether one tenor or more. But one thing stands out here, that 2 tenor in office leads to squander million. And we also observe that a man politically can offer all he has even within 4 years. What you are doing the next 4 years, you are recycling. It's more or less a political petitio principi. We are not moving ahead either.
Okay, are you saying that 4 years would have been better off?
Of course.
As a single term?
Single term of 4, 5, 6, all the same, but single term would have been better off. Because from time, we have observed, especially in this country, that any of these people for second term, their second term is always worse than their first tenure.
So you seem to be in tandem with the reformed-minded lawmakers?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Well, let me unsettle you a bit, because I know you are getting ready to fume everything that you have on your mind. What are your thoughts on this? How do you take this?
It's a misplaced priority.
Oh.
It's unfortunate that at this time of human existence in Nigeria, upon the attainment of independence, 1st October 1960, we are still going around the cycle. This is not the first time the 6-year single tenure is coming up. In 2014, the CONFAB, it was discussed and agreed upon. But where is the document? Somebody is sitting on it, and a group of persons who had the single intention to distract Nigerians, just as Malam Nuri has opined. Just a distraction. You know, the crop of leaders we have today are leaders who look for every atom to distract the people of Nigeria. They give us reasons why we should argue amongst ourselves. They give us reasons why we should not look at them at the top of the ladder. Rather, we should concentrate below the ladder. We had a beautiful document. We had other issues bothering Nigeria. Just now, to survive in Nigeria, Nigeria is survival of the fittest. And none of these men is thinking of how to ameliorate the pains that Nigeria are going through. Instead, after this destruction, they will come up and begin to tell us, oh, you people should tighten your belt. Why they losing theirs? So, 6 years single term, 4 years single term for 2 term, I don't think that is the issue just now. We keep seeing leaders who are interested in egocentrism, what they benefit at the expense of the people. And now, here we are seated, discussing single term. The germane question is this: is that the issue to be discussed just now? When a Nigerian can hardly survive, and before you know it, they will go away from single term, they will tell you another thing to cause more distraction. Before you know this 4 years, we wipe away. And by next year, God willing, we are alive, you hear them begin to talk of 2027 elections again, because that is the interest. So it's unfortunate that Nigeria. I was discussing yesterday with somebody. I asked the person a simple question. I said that was it that George Orwell, the prolific writer who wrote the book titled Animal Farm, had Nigeria in mind before he wrote that piece? Is it that I had Nigeria in mind? Because what is playing out today in Nigeria is properly described in that book.
Okay. Well,
so we are in animal farm indeed.
Okay.
It's a misplaced priority.
You call it a misplaced priority. Let's situate it this way, because you made mention of the fact that it's a misplaced priority. We don't need it now, and that they should rather concentrate on ameliorating the plight of Nigerians. But we seem to forget the common patrimony of Nigerians that is being depleted by having 2 terms in office. Because if you have 2 terms, it means you're going to organize elections twice for one administration. I want you to take it from that point, Malam Nuruddin Asunoge, and he also doubles as a legal practitioner, I must say. Let's take it from that point, Malam Nuruddin.
Well, I think the point Bakbolo has made, we can't wave away. If we do that at our own peril. Nigerians are ululating, going through hell, for a want of a better word. And so you have people who were supposed to be their representatives, meaning those who feel their pulse. And so they go to the hallowed chamber, and all that they've got to discuss is how long would Mr. President stay or not stay? How long would the governor stay? Reporting their inadequacies. Because the only difference between a democracy and a military rule is the National Assembly. Is the Assembly. Okay. That's the only difference. And that is the powerhouse. That explains why you do not refer to president or whatever. I give you one clear example. If you got so disillusioned with your rep in the Edo State House of Assembly, for example, it will be easier for the camel to go through the eye of the needle than for you to recall him.
Wow.
Extremely difficult. But just 2/3 of that number, representing the people and feeling the pulse, can say to Mr. Governor, your game is up, and he's gone back home. It will be history he was ever governor. Same number you require at the national level to send Mr. President packing. If your fear is that they become corrupt, do you go on sabbatical when they come during the second term? Why can't you check them? You are the power for speaking out loud. Now, what they have done over time is that they have compromised. They have subjugated themselves because they want their their bread buttered, and so we have the challenge. When you talk about money being spent to organize election, are you not going to spend money after every 6 years to organize the same election?
But at least one will be taken off. And so you save that huge humongous amount
what will be taken
that
off?
used for election.
In other words, the election, you just extended that by 2 years. The cost would have paid into insignificance. We would not have been discussing the cost if we had value for money. We are complaining because we have no value for money, because this is a country that is so blessed, and yet the people are living a life, of impecuniosity. How do you reconcile? That is for the very best. Those are at our level can say, our life is impecunious. The vast majority is one of outright penury. And that's a consequence of the mismanagement of resources. The presidency and some 1-2 members of the National Assembly came to say, we got, for those of us who were members of the House of Representatives, we got X amount for Christmas rice for our constituents in December. Some at the senatorial level got. I come from a senatorial district as we speak now. The 200 million, nothing has happened. No rice was bought. The one who is the House of Rep in my area bought rice and showed it. The video went viral. Danko, his video went viral that this is the right Kosi presidency and all that kind of stuff. Others sat over what they got. Now, They didn't speak to the fact that what did we need a 160 million vehicle for? They didn't speak to all of this fact. They have not spoken about the fact that why our refinery is not working. I bought 15,000 naira worth of fuel yesterday. By the time I was coming here this morning, I was lucky that there were no much traffic on the road because my eyes were glued to the tank.
Exactly.
So
That's
I
what
just can't
every motorist
understand
does.
what exactly is happening. And so why would we have, why does the issue thrown up by the likes of Dangote saying that it is much easier to fight the cartel in drug business than to fight those in the oil business? Why is it that these have not engaged them? Because these are the issues that the average non-Nigerian is interested in, whether Tinubu remains president for life, except for those of them who are in the political class, for as long as he has good roads to travel on, for as long as he has power, he is not independent supplier of his own power, for as long that he could go to sleep and not sleep just because he had to squeeze money out to pay a vigilante. So these are issues I think they should be discussing. In Singapore, nobody was interested for how long Kuan Yew was there as whatever, because the persons he presided over the affair felt at home. Today the son is there. I don't know if he has existed power. Nobody is thinking about whether batting was being rotated for as long as the game is well played. And so these are the issues we thought should have engaged the National Assembly, not to distract us. Why is the National Assembly not interested in what was done by a legitimate government? Jonathan was sitting as president of Nigeria in a capacity that was legitimate. It was not even by the back door he came. Had a constituent assembly. Resources for every member of that constituent assembly got a sitting allowance for the start. I don't know whether something was added to it of 12 million Nigerian money. They came with a document. Why does the National Assembly think we have no right to know what is in that document? What is implementable in that document? Implement. What is not implementable, you throw away. The entire document is kept somewhere because someone says, I don't want it to happen. And so the assembly that has the powers to say, we could say this, is doing nothing. And all you are talking about is, Mr. President be there. If he wants to steal all the money, he only has less than 2 years to steal. All you just succeeded in doing is to reduce 2 years of stealing. Another person come and takes the baton. So where does that leave us? These are the issues we said they ought to be discussing.
Okay.
Why can't people access their farms?
Okay.
Why can't we get food to eat? Why have we appropriated all the trillions we have appropriated? We took loans to construct roads, to tar roads, and the roads are not there. You can't go from here to Auchi on a straight course now. A journey you could do in 50 minutes if you were sluggish, you can't do the next 6 hours. And so nobody is asking, where did the money go?
Okay.
So these are the issues we think they should be addressing, not piling loans upon loans. Do not forget that the World Bank has recently granted us another loan. A debt my great-grandchildren will come to pay, and I was not even a beneficiary of it now. They will abuse and curse our memory when we are gone.
Okay, let me hinge it on that you spoke about loan, and it still borders on our common patrimony. You have a big support for the lawmakers, like you said earlier in your conversation. Now, let's look at the area of cost. Don't you think this will again help to reduce costs?
Certainly, we can't argue that what they are doing now is a misplaced priority. But now that is on our table, okay, we can not but discuss it. Certainly, it will reduce, it will not cure the problem of the Nigerians. Why it will not cure is because the issue of corruption is there. Whether it's single tenure or 2 tenure in office, the problem of corruption will also.
But it puts more money in the budget, in the annual budget.
No, actually, like it may reduce the cost of election. For example, from the first year in office, they have started talking about their second tenure. From the first year, people are already warming up for 2027. When we have not completed a year, they have already started planning. From that moment, they have started amassing wealth.
And sometimes you wonder
what
they
they
are
will
planning
do
for the people or for themselves.
No, for themselves. So sometimes when you see, instead of allowing the person to continue to steal for 8 years, because the stealing spirit is already there, the corruption is already there, you are trying to reduce it by 2 years. Instead of conducting 2 elections in 8 years, you want to conduct 2 elections in 12 years. You only succeeded in reducing it either by 4 years. That would have been helpful to us if we have a proper foundation, if we have not dealt with the problem of corruption. You see, he that come to equity must come with clean hands. Even those who are agitating for this, has their hand clean.
Okay, but
what is their intention?
We can't put a blanket on all, because you agree with me that there are some politicians, fine politicians,
of course,
who are after the people.
Come, you see, a tree cannot make a forest. If we have 1, 2, or 3, it's not enough to create the desired impact. You see, we keep making laws upon laws. Implementation is a problem. The rule of law is a problem. We don't, even the law we make ourselves, we violate it. I remember when Obasanjo was there, after 2 tenures, some sets of people started agitating for 3rd tenure in office. So, if the man did not want to go, there is a way he can perpetuate himself against the law. We have seen many situations and many times, even when the law should take its course, because of the corrupt mindset, we have a way we jump over it, and that is there. When my friend was saying, the problem we have here is that if the mind is corrupt, no matter what you put on the hand of that person is going to be corrupt. After this single tenure, we are going to discover another problem that we are not seeing now.
There are issues are always emerging. Okay, thank you. Now, just like Malam Nuruddin said, you know, that there seem to be lapses in the ability of the National Assembly or lawmakers to properly check the excesses of the executive. Now, if we are saying that this is a distraction or this is a misplaced priority, Emmanuel Obakpalo, what do you see, or how can we reposition the National Assembly or the lawmakers or the legislature to be seen rising to the occasion of properly checkmating the excesses of the executive, particularly the president?
I do not think that with this crop of National Assembly members, we are going to make any headway. I do not think that.
You seem
because
pessimistic.
Yes. All their activities suggest that they live in a utopian Nigeria rather. That is what it suggests. And it is unfortunate that leaders keep engaging us in fairy tales like the one told to an idiot in Alice in Wonderland. Nigerians are tired of these stories. Nigerians want to see results. Nigerians are going through pains, penury. Nigerians, it is just not true for an average Nigerian that
what are the
that poverty has been weaponized by our leaders.
What are the indications? What do you see as attributes to make you say that they seem not ready?
With the kind of issues they bring up.
Oh.
Because just now, the National Assembly members represent the people of Nigeria. If you look at the Constitution of Nigeria, the Constitution of Nigeria has 67 powers. 64 to the president, 1 to judiciary, 1 to the legislature. The remainder 1 is shared between the executive and the legislature. Then, but it appears that the National Assembly, the legislature, has no power. They tie themselves to the apron of the executive.
Okay, but let's look at the Constitution. You are a legal practitioner. Let's look at the Constitution. The blueprint of the Constitution, does it give powers to the National Assembly or not?
Absolutely.
Who are those to amend?
Absolutely.
Who are those to amend?
Or is it possible that they are not saying that part?
They are not, because they tie themselves to the apron of the executive.
Well, it's your opinion.
It is, and that is what is at stake. And that's why you see, every now and then, they keep bringing up discussions that go around the executive. The single term, the 6-year single term we are talking about just now, it has to do with who? The executive.
Okay.
And is that the germane issue for them to raise and discuss at the chamber of the assembly?
All right.
So we keep seeing them submitting themselves wholeheartedly to the executive. Perhaps because they see that, oh, let us pretend that we are doing something. So that when we get back home, after all, they don't come back home anyway. When we get back home, either by mistake or by unconsciousness, we will still have what to tell the people. Oh, I sponsored such bill. I did it. By the time it is campaign era now, you begin to hear, I sponsored this, I sponsored that. You sponsor what that never saw the light of the day? Is that what we are talking about? Some go there and sleep. Some are referred to as sleeping senators. Some just go there as rep members. They will just stay there for complete 4 years. You will not hear their voice.
Okay, thank you.
But all they are interested is what they benefit.
Okay.
So it's unfortunate that we, in a country that is blessed with brains, idiots are the end of affairs.
I'm not always comfortable when we sound pessimistic, anyways. But big thanks, Emmanuel Bakpolo. Just in case you just seen this as TMI, and we are looking at the aspect of the 6-year single term as proposed by lawmakers at the national level, and it hovers on the office of the president and of course the states of the federation. We are looking at the gains, we are looking at evaluation of the bill in its entirety, and I've been discussing with an array of legal practitioners, Malam Nuruddin, a Muslim cleric, and of course Reverend Rotimi Egagi, a senior pastor of God's Chapel of Refuge, Wisdom Palace, and Emmanuel Obakpolo. Thank you for sustaining your presence. Now, let the pendulum swing to the far left. Malam Nuruddin, let's look at the Constitution, for instance. Because I remember you, while I was discussing with why he had the floor, Emmanuel Obakpolo, you gave some edges to show that you want to ventilate in this direction. What does the Constitution give to the National Assembly as powers to check properly the executive?
I'll tell you most frankly, like the point he has lucidly made, the executive has no power of spending. That's where the strength of the executive is supposed to be, except such fund as appropriated for it by the National Assembly.
The executive has no power of spending?
Absolutely none.
No power of spending?
No power except what is appropriated for it by the National Assembly.
The president does not have discretionary powers?
Discretionary power, then anarchy would reign supreme if that were to happen. And that is why I told you.
And is it possible that the lawmakers are not aware of this?
They are aware, but you see, what the president, what had always happened is that there's always an ambush. And so the president is interested in who becomes the Speaker of the House of Rep, who becomes the Senate President, without wanting to sound vituperative. There are some who would have had no business if you went through, if you were to extract their pedigree. They would have no business being there, but unfortunately they superintend over affairs. Those who would tell you, I mean, you want to do clearance of people who have been nominated as ministers and you have issues, you will first go back and ask Mr. President, should we clear these persons? If that was necessary, why was the list sent to you in the very first place for you to clear? And so that's where we have the challenge. And again, I told you, what is the total number of those you find in the two chambers of the National Assembly? Less than 500. Less than 500. 2/3 of that number can send Mr. President home and for life.
But like you said, there's a romance. There seems to be a hope.
Absolutely. So you were asking what power do they have. I'm now establishing to you that they have absolute power. When President Obasanjo, stubborn as he thought he was, met a National Assembly that was truly a National Assembly, he got humbled.
Oh.
He got humbled. He had to, you know, he had to tame himself because there was an assembly that was ready to tame him. When he wanted a third term, regardless of what the pretenses were, regardless of what the deniers were, he wanted a third term. What was it that those persons, when it came to an open debate, every member stands up to say, I was in my constituent. This is what they said. Much as I would have wanted to give a third term, a vote to fly, my people said no.
That's quite sincere.
My people said no. That was what they were saying.
Okay.
Now, some persons woke up. Perhaps they have become costive, haven't been fed at the villa with the kind of food they probably have not eaten, whatever, they overfed themselves, got pixelated with the aroma and everything about it, and so woke up the following morning
to change the narrative,
suffering indigestion. And the next thing they would do is to say, it's going to be 6 years, single tenure. You have not met with those who sent you. Were they representing, were they giving a voice to the whispering of those people they were representing? The answer, of course, is no. If you are a representative, it will mean that whatever you are doing, that is why the title is so giving. Representative, you are representing me. In other words, you cannot operate at variance with what my position is. Was what they were saying an aggregate of what the majority of the people they represent say? The answer, of course, is no. You know why it is a distraction? If that law were ever to say through the two chambers of the National Assembly, and Mr. President, as he is now, the Mr. Emilio Con, you mean he would endorse and not truncate his own whatever by 2 years? That isn't going to happen.
Oh, it's a fallacy.
And so because it's not going to happen, he will do one or two things, which is predictable. Return it to the National Assembly, and so we probably had gone into somnolence when this bill came through. And so you activate your men in the Assembly and give them whatever it is that is required to gratify others.
Okay.
To permanently not speak about that bill until your first whatever runs out. And it goes in that circle. Because when next is being brought, the president who is coming will say, why are you going to start it with me? Hold on. We hold on in perpetuity. And that explains why we're saying they needed to do what the average Nigerian needs rather than dissipate our resources. Because it's our money they are using to pursue a project that they know will never see the light of the day. If what they fear, election is only expensive only to the extent to which they, the politicians, have corrupted the process. In the United States of America today, those who are the multinationals spend more money on elections than those who are contestants. You know why they have to do so? In order to create the ambience that is required for their businesses to fructify. And so they spend more money than those who are contesting. Okay. So create that type of whatever, that those who will be spending money on our election will not be the politicians anymore, but they will never allow that to happen, because that is the only way by which they make money for themselves. That's the only way they make us perpetually underdogs, not to be in a position to challenge them.
Thank you. Being that as it is, because the whole aspect about this is to check the menace of corruption and bad governance. Now, don't you think the people, again, have a role to play in making sure that they put the executive in check, most especially in the times of election when they are supposed to take right decisions? But again, the challenge here is even in the elections among the lots of candidates. Who can we tell
when you say the people, what
right
do you mean?
Motive to help out?
What do you mean? The people? Or you are talking about the legislators?
No. I'm talking about the electorate. In guiding or checking against the excesses. Because they have that time during elections, but by virtue of inducements, they seem to cast their attention on the wrong candidate or a wrong person. But I now ask the question, is it really possible, even out from the outlay of candidates, to even get one who has the people's interest at heart?
When I look critically to what is going on in Nigeria, in our political circle, the people has no such power. It only exists.
Election? The powers
Oh,
to elect?
no. Which
To cast
power?
their vote?
Which power
To
do they
decide who
have?
leads
The
them?
one that they decide.
Huh?
Look at, for example, it is not even what the people say that is implemented.
Oh.
You just go vote and go back to your home. You cannot tell.
Or you mean their vote don't count?
It will not count. Even now, even the judiciary, who is the one who even determines who should be there, and not even the body saddled with the responsibility of organizing election.
But we should make it count.
How
That's
are
the
you going
essence
to
of
make
this-
it count?
of
Because
this discussion.
the
We
one
should make it count.
they are holding the handle of the knife, and they leave you with the sharp edge.
So we should be helpless? Is that what you mean?
Of course, we are politically helpless. What we do, we are just doing a kind of rotation, you know, before even they go to vote, they are induced. So they have been able to work on our minds, the minds of the people, make them poor, you know, impoverish them, and give them what they want. You know, right from when they are deciding primaries, you see the way money are exchanged. The kind of money you have never seen in your life and in this nation will come in. And in the hotels, it will be exchanging. On the voting place, money is exchanging hands. Then those officers saddled with the responsibility of deciding or collating results, another point of exchange. So the way Nigeria is so corrupt, if it is possible to bribe an angel, they will do so.
Well, Africans are rising to that occasion, and we are seeing elections in different parts of Africa, even South Africa, and the votes are counting. And even in Senegal, their votes are counting. So what should make
Those
Nigeria's
one have
votes not count?
listen.
I think a whole lot needs to be done in that direction.
Listen, you see, we are more or less like in a amorphous society, an acephalous society, where nothing stands. You know, from the beginning, those one have a system. And when they establish an institution, it works and it counts and it flows as it should be. But in this case, the whole thing is disorganized.
Okay,
nothing counts.
Okay, let's take your closing remarks, your thoughts as you react to that, and your thoughts before we let go on the conversation.
By virtue of the provision of Section 14, subsection 2, paragraph A of the Extant Constitution, sovereignty belongs to the people. Okay. And the only time the people exercise that sovereignty is when they donate their power to those they choose to govern them. But the question again is, are the people of Nigeria legitimately donate their powers to those who govern them just now? You know the answer. I know the answer. And unfortunately, just like my daddy said here, the people have been injured to the extent that they can now choose those to govern them. Poverty. In the last election, in my polling unit, somebody came. They were giving people 1,000 naira to vote. And someone told them, this person is a lawyer, please make his own 2,000 naira.
Are you serious?
So you can imagine that.
Who were they referring to?
Me, of course.
Oh, really?
2,000 to buy a conscience.
God is great.
2,000 naira. For what? He said, you can just use it for recharge card. He said, we have a long way to go.
Thank you.
And immediately I refused it, I became an enemy in that place.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it's unfortunate.
Thank you so much, Barrister Emmanuel Bakolo. Big thanks, Malam Nuruddin Asunogie, a Muslim cleric, and of course, big thanks to you, Reverend Barrister Rotimi Egagi, Senior Pastor of God's Chapel of Refuge, Wisdom Palace. Well, quite interesting, but Nigeria must forge ahead, and we must put our hands on the deck to make sure that it happens.